Good morning. My name is Councilman Gil Schusser, and I'm the chair of the HART Finance and Audit Committee. I hope the people remote can hear me clear enough. If not, please say something now so that I can make an adjustments. Director Melanie Williams, chair of the Operations and Safety Committee, should be here shortly, so she will be in attendance. Welcome to the August 15th, 2022 Joint Operations and Safety and Finance and Audit Committee meeting. The meeting format is hybrid. Quorum is physically present at the HART Administrative Offices, 1201 East 7th Avenue, Florida Conference Room, and the rest of the board members are participating via communication media technology. Please take a look at your screens, and an image of the flag is displayed. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Staff, please do a roll call.
Committee Member Castor?
We just turned her.
She's muted.
Okay. Committee Member Kemp? Here.
I'm here, sorry.
Committee Member Knight, thank you.
Here.
Committee Member Overman?
Here.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Here.
Committee Member Williams? You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, rules for participation and roles of responsibility of both committees are provided in the packet. In the packet are also the minutes from the June 21st Joint Operations Safety and Finance and Audit Committee hybrid meetings. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second. Staff, do vote, please.
Committee Member Castor? Committee Member Kemp?
Yes.
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Here. Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda item is public comment. As a reminder to all speakers, 3 minutes will be allowed for comments per speaker. The first registered speaker is Logan Mayer from Vector Media, excuse me, I apologize. You are recognized.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Are you guys able to hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay. My name is Logan Mayer, Vice President of Business Development and Strategic Partnerships with Vector Media. Over the weekend, my colleagues and I were very excited to see that the budget for advertising revenues has been increased in the updated budget included in today's agenda. I, along with Dave Dalcansey, our EVP of Public Transit, am responsible for managing our transit partnerships around the country and are thrilled about the opportunity to share plans and ideas to increase revenues while increasing engagement within the community, including branding initiatives, ridership, and driver appreciation initiatives, some of which were alluded to by Dave in the board meeting just a few weeks ago. We have greatly enjoyed working with HART since 2011. We will continue to build momentum for the program as we are on pace to exceed $2 million in advertising revenues this year and hope to earn the opportunity to continue our partnership for many years to come. My colleague, Lori Gage, who is in attendance, who has been the most passionate transit advertising specialist in Tampa for the last 18 years, is also there to speak about her excitement for the future of the HART advertising program. Thank you all again for the opportunity to speak today, and again, look forward to many more years of partnership together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lori Gage from Vector Media. You're recognized to speak. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This one? Not a professional. I am Lori Gage, and I am a long-term resident and a voter here in Tampa. I'm at 7308 Park Drive in Tampa, 33610. And my passion, probably more than anyone else you'll ever meet, is transit advertising and here in Tampa. I've been responsible for that, like Logan mentioned, for 18 years now, working in partnership with HART under several management teams here at HART and marketing teams. Most recently, we went through the extensive competitive RFP process that was in August of 2021 when our contract ended. And there were 3 respondents. It was Vector Media, it was Insight, who handles your shelter advertising, and Lamar, outdoor advertising. So we came in first, barely. We came in first, Lamar was in second place, and Insight was in third place. But at that time, it was decided HART didn't want to move forward with the results of this RFP. And there were the thoughts and conversations about the branding initiative and, and maybe kind of including some new things in this contract. As a longtime resident transit advocate, it was very difficult for me when it appeared that all of the hard work and the growth that we've accomplished over the 18 years. When I came to Tampa, annual total revenues were $250,000 in advertising, and now the share that HART is that you're projected to get in this year is $2 million, and that's your share. So it's been consistent. And we went through a major rebranding in 2011. I was part of that when the buses went from white to blue. So that was a lot of coordination. And I was here for the Metro Rapid Initiative when we had the green buses and the dedicated route. So there's lots of coordination to avoid both service interruption for HART and then interruption of advertising contracts. So, and then in addition to that, we survived the recession of 2008, we survived the pandemic of 2020, and, we just continue to grow, and which is a big benefit for HART. So we hope to continue all of this, and I'm really excited to talk with HART and about HART with all of my clients, continue to do so, and excited to see and hoping to exceed the revenue projections of 1.5, where the budget has been revised, and we're looking to bring in at least 10% more before the end of this year. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, this concludes, is there anybody else wishing to speak at this point? This concludes the public input section of the meeting. Next will be our presentations. The first presentation will be the fiscal year 2022 proposed budget. Ms. Loretta Kirk, CFO, where you are recognized to present. Welcome.
Thank you and good morning. Good morning to Mr. Schischler, to the members of the Joint Committee, members of the board, and to Ms. LeGrand. As was stated, this is an update on the proposed budget for fiscal year 23. Today, I'll go over the updated calendar. We'll talk about the operating budget, and then today I want to concentrate on the capital plan as we stated before. I last presented to you on August 1st, 2022. During that presentation, I concentrated on the operating budget and the projected service for fiscal year 23. And then today, I'll briefly cover the operating budget and spend more time on the capital plan, but certainly feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions. This is our updated budget. So we will have our updated calendar. So today, as I stated, we'll talk about the general budget, the 5-year capital plan, and the fiscal year 23 capital budget. Then after today, we'll follow the truth and millage process for approval of the budgets. So on September 12th, we'll have our first public hearing, and at that time, hopefully the board will adopt the tentative millage rate and the tentative budget. Then we do have a advertisement that we must do 2 to 5 days before the second public hearing, and that advertisement will be placed in the newspaper on September 21st, and then on September 26th, we'll be here again for the second public hearing. And at that meeting, hopefully the board will adopt the final millage rate and the final budget. As I stated before, both public hearings will be in this room at 5:30 p.m. In terms of the revenue, very little changed since I presented on the 1st. However, as you noted in the public comment, we did change the revenue for advertising, and we did make a minor adjustment to the state operating assistance. And because of that, we changed the ARP funding. But other than that, there were no other changes to the revenue. But just to summarize very briefly, our ad valorem taxes will increase by 14%. And of course, according to board policy, we only budget 95% of that. In terms of the federal relief funding, we're budgeting at $19.9 million of the ARP. Fares based on ridership, federal operating remained the same at $4.4 million. That's the portion of the 5307 program of projects funding. State grants, it did go down slightly because we adjusted for a portion that was allocated to capital, and then we added money for the Uptown projection for that service. The state operating grants, I just want to remind the board that included in the state operating grants is $800,000 for the continuation of free fares for the streetcar. And then we have money coming in from the city and local contributions. That's the city also for streetcar funding. Advertising income, as was noted, has increased to $1.5 million, and our other income is projected at $946,000. In terms of the COVID relief, you can see that after this year, we will have $18 million remaining. Our total relief funding for the past few years, $103.4 million. We've used $85.3 million, and when I say use, that includes included in the budget and included in the budget for fiscal year 23. So again, after fiscal year 23, we're projecting to have $18 million remaining, and all of that is ARP funding. In terms of expenses, the budget includes 800 FTEs. That includes 594 ATU employees, 51 Teamsters, and 155 non-bargaining employees. And we've talked about the assumptions for fuel, $1.62 for the diesel gallon equivalent for CNG, diesel $4.50, unleaded $3.40. So this is our operating revenues. These are the schedules, operating revenues and operating expenses total $114,309,110. Okay, in terms of proposed service, that did not change from our last presentation. We're expecting to run 8.9 million miles, 704,000 hours, and total ridership is projected at 11,688,786. All right, I'll just pause for a second to see if there's any questions on the operating before I go to capital.
Does anyone have any questions? Very good, thank you. Go ahead, proceed.
Okay, so this is our 5-year capital plan. Fiscal year 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. The total for the 5-year plan is $334,062,882. And you can see the total by year, 45.7 for fiscal year 23, 71.5 for fiscal year 24, 69.8 for fiscal year 25, 66.5 for fiscal year 26, and 80.2 $100.6 million for fiscal year '27. And you can see the components for rolling stock, facilities and construction, technology, planning, studies, bus stops and shelters, the BRT, safety and security, and our maintenance equipment. So I'll go through each category individually. This is the slide for our rolling stock, our revenue vehicles, and maintenance total. And for the 5 years, we're projecting $139.6 million. Understanding that the first year, fiscal year '23, is the actual capital budget. So the board is reviewing the plan, but when you approve your budget, you're actually approving the fiscal year '23 capital budget. So for fiscal year '23, we're projecting $22.5 million for capital, as part of our capital plan. Fiscal year '24, $17 million for vehicles. Fiscal year '25, $16.3, $26, $18.6, and $27, $65 million. So I'll just point out a few things as you look at this slide. You can see that we do have the passenger ferry budgeted for fiscal year '26. And you can see that starting next year, we do have electric buses and infrastructure for those electric vehicles programmed out for the entire 5-year plan. So I'll just pause to see if there's any questions about the revenue vehicles and maintenance.
Any questions? Yes.
Thank you very much for the detail here. That's very, very helpful. In the fiscal year 2027, the budgeted purchase for the streetcar replacement and expansion, is how much of that will come in as a consequence of potential federal grants and the need for sales tax revenue in order to make that project work?
Okay, let me first mention that our fiscal year '23 budget is fully funded. I have matched up the revenues with the expenses. For the out years, that's the question in terms of funding. So I can't tell you at this time how much funding is coming. We have not matched it up with the actual funding. Now I'll pause to see if Ms. LeGrand has anything that she wants to add to that.
Okay.
But, this is our aspirational plan, and then as we approach each year and advance it to the current year, then it has to be funded to budget for it.
Okay, that is the answer I expected, and but in general, for a project of that size, that type of project would be actually eligible for federal funding that would require a local match. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would say that we certainly plan to be very aggressive, and if there are any notices of funding opportunities, to take advantage of all of those opportunities for funding. But of course, for the federal grants, you do have to have the local share. Very few federal grants are 100%. The ARP is 100%. Those type of grants are 100%. But in general, it's probably an 80-20 grant. You'd have to come up with 20% local share.
And am I correct in this, the information that I would just want to verify it, but 2027 is the last year of the federal infrastructure bill funding. Is that correct?
I'd have to check that.
Assuming it lasts that long.
Right, it's usually a 5-year bill, unless Congress extends it, of course. The last one was the FAST Act. It was supposed to be 5 years, and I think it ended up being 8 or 9 or 10 years. So it just depends on what Congress decides to do with those funding acts.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Graham, did you have? Okay.
Any other,
Thank you.
you have anything? Any other questions? Ms. Kemp, Commissioner Kemp.
I don't know if this can be answered right now, but does the top line, the replacement of 40-foot diesel buses with CNG, will, over those 5 years, will that mean the entire diesel fleet numbers are replaced, or do we have that calculation?
May I respond?
Please.
So, good morning, Mr. Schisler, Director Schisler, the rest of the board members and staff. Yes, a part of our process, if you remember, probably a year ago now, we presented a fleet replacement plan So part of the strategy is as we retire diesel buses, we'll transition them to CNG, and then as we go through that process, we'll retire CNG with electric. So really the focus is that we'll have a mixed fleet of CNG and electric as we retire diesel buses. So that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing a progression of adding more electric as we continue to add CNG.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have one regarding the electric buses. I'm assuming the 5.4 million in 2023, which is what we're really focusing on, is half what we had to contribute and half of what came from the feds, right? From Representative Castor. How long do we have to use that before we lose? Could we ever lose that matching grant?
Well, the matching is coming from the state. I'll look to Mr. Grant.
So for this line item, Director Schisler, this is the partnership we did with TICO. So it was a grant that we worked with TICO as our local partner, as well as getting federal money. And we have worked, I would say, tirelessly over the last couple of months, and we've gotten to a point where we've signed off on all of the items that were required, and we're going to move forward with that. So the first year, that's funded. We have HART money in this, as well as funding from TICO. They're helping us with infrastructure, and then the other funding that came there. But that's fully funded and identified.
How many buses will this cover?
Around 3.
3, that's what I figured, okay. Okay, cool. Thank you, go ahead.
Okay.
Proceed.
And thank you, Mr. Grant, because we did send the letter from TICO to FTA, and they accepted that as our local share. So
Okay.
thank you for that. The next category, facilities and construction. You can see that the major item here is the construction of the heavy maintenance facility at $1 million over the 5 years. And then you can just scan down and see the other items that we plan for the 5 years for a total of $111,138,500 for facilities and construction. I'll pause to see if there's any questions on this slide.
Any questions? I do have one question, and I think we discussed this briefly earlier. How are we situated with internal staff to manage the depth of these construction projects, both with the vehicles as well as the heavy maintenance facility moving forward? Can we do with what we got, or are we going to have to add staff, or?
And I would say it's a combination of staff and systems.
Okay.
Because we are planning to buy technology that will help us manage the staff. But again, if Mr. Grant wants to reply to that.
Sure. So that is a great question. And Ms. Kirk is right. We're looking at the staff, systems, and also additional resources. So with the consulting community helping us, we're also going to rely on their services. You're well aware that HART has not had a major project in a very long time. So the expectation is not that our internal staff is ready right now to move forward and manage building a new facility, but we will have them paired with the consultants to help us move it forward. So if you see in FY23, the budget year, the $2 million, that's really for assistance with the project manager or program manager from the consulting space, and then our staff will work closely with them, be an opportunity for them to see firsthand what is required to manage such a scale of a project, but also for the consultant to learn more about what we do here at HART and be more acclimated to our environment. So that's what we're proposing for FY23. And then you see 24 and beyond, the numbers get higher because the objective here is that at the end of FY23, we have a proposal on the street to actually hire someone to start the construction. And that's where you see the numbers getting higher because that's actually turning dirt.
Good, okay. Commissioner Overman.
Thank you, and that sort of relates to my next question. For the capital plans for 24, 25, 26, which is the bulk of the cost associated with the heavy maintenance facility, the funding sources for those particular dollars that total to $100 million, is that largely state funded, or is that going to be federally funded, or because we clearly don't have that kind of revenue coming in on a regular basis?
So I'll respond, Director Overman. So as of today, we have $75 million in hand that came from a number of locations. So FDOT has committed approximately $25 million. The TPO has committed approximately $25 million. The Hillsborough County Commission has, I would say, dedicated approximately $15 million, and the remaining funds to get to the 75 is coming from a combination of HART and the City of Tampa. So the $25 million we already have identified. What we're working on is the remaining $25 million, and that's where we're going after additional grants and opportunities to get that funding. But, you know, recognizing the condition of the heavy maintenance facility and the fact that we do need to make some changes, you know, we're moving forward with the 75 that we have and going to continue to work to get the remaining 25.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Ms. Kirk?
The next category is technology. And you can see that for the 5 years, we are programmed at $22,335,213. You can see the components. The major component is the CAD AVL system that we've been talking about, and we have that programmed in for fiscal year 23. And you can see the other categories. Notice the scheduling software is programmed over the 5 years. Always have to do network upgrades, you know, just to maintain that infrastructure. And then you can see in fiscal year 24, you can see that we plan on investing $1 million for the program management software that we talked about when Mr. Grant was talking about a combination of software, technology, and people. Any questions on this slide?
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
The $3 million in 2025, that's HR and payroll, is that to run the software internally, but it doesn't look like it's recurring? That's why it caught my eye.
It's not recurring,
Okay.
Commissioner Overman. That is actually a
Upgrade of the system.
Yeah, replacement. Right now, we're using ADP. It could be ADP or any other vendor, but we know that that system will be end of life, and we have to get a new system, and we programmed it for fiscal year 25.
Okay, great, thank you.
And the last slide has several categories: the bus stops and shelters, the bus rapid transit, the studies, safety and security, and maintenance equipment. You can see bus stops where we've programmed almost 15.9 million for the 5 years. The bus rapid transit, 30 million. The planning studies, 6 million. Safety and security, 900,000, and then the maintenance equipment, 8 million too. And that includes, you can see in fiscal year 24, the upgrade to the fare boxes. But I'll just pause to see if there's any questions on this slide.
Don't see any. Oh, Commissioner Kemp?
I'll just ask the bus rapid transit, we're talking about Florida Avenue.
For the studies, yes, but we're also...
I'm sorry, the arterial BRT, it's up here for the big numbers up there.
That is correct.
That's Florida Avenue. Okay, I just wanted to check, thank you.
Yes, okay. And just remember that everything is programmed out, and so in order to move to a current year, you have to have funding. And that will be our challenge, to make sure that we have funding to advance it to a current year budget. Okay, so having said that, as I mentioned before, the first column of the 5-year plan is the capital budget. And this is the revenue sources and, of course, the projects that you just saw for fiscal year 23. So for fiscal year 23, our capital revenues should be, we've programmed $45.7 million, of course, for the revenues to match to the categories for the projects. So the revenues, we have block grant money, discretionary grants. Those are grants that we compete for, that we have the notice of funding opportunities, and we go after those grants. The general fund, that's the money that we take from ad valorem to help pay for capital projects. This year, there was only one project, and it was the small farebox project that we didn't have federal dollars. Everything else had federal and state dollars, so we don't need to use ad valorem, which is good news because we need it for operations. And then you see the money that we're expecting from the Department of Transportation, TCO, that was for, as Ms. LeGrand had mentioned, to match for the electric buses. And then we have our 3 formula grants that we talked about earlier in the year, the 5339, 5337, 5307 program of projects, which you can see that big difference is that this year we decided to use most of the program of project funding for capital so that we could do our midlife overhaul. So this is the 1 year that we didn't use it mostly for operating, and then you can see the money that we receive for from the impact and mobility fees. Again, for a total $45.7 million.
Any questions? Seeing none?
So this is the, I'll just scan through these because you've seen them, but this is the actual capital budget. So we extracted the capital budget from the capital plan. So again, for vehicles, $22.5 million. This is only for fiscal year 23 because this is what you will approve when you approve the budget. Facilities, 4.4. Technology, 14.8. And the various other categories for a total capital budget for fiscal year 23, $45,736,905. Just to cover the reserves, I've taken the proposed operating budget, $114.3 million, calculated the desired reserve balance, $28,577,277. The next slide, I'll show you our actual reserves. Currently, we have, and we'll have $17 million for operating expenses, and then we have 4 other reserves. We have our reserve for risk, that's a liability claims reserve at $3.2 million. We have medical benefit reserve at $313,000. Both of those self-insurance reserves are based on our actuarial studies that we receive every year. Then we have a capital match reserve, and so that is funding that we have available should we need to use it to match a capital grant. And then we have and those first 4 are mandated by board policy. The last one we have just based on good business practice, and that's the Fta Liability Reserve. We have $1.2 million set aside in the event that any of our equipment, federally funded equipment, is destroyed before the end of its useful life, and we may have a liability back to FTA. And so that's $1.2 million. So our reserves right now, 26, and expected at the end of the year, $26.2 million.
Ms. Kirk, I have a question. Is there any questions regarding fund balances? Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so if our target's 28 and we have 26, are we using $2 million, and we are budgeting to utilize approximately $2 million over what it would take to fund or to keep it level?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Okay, so on the previous slide, you showed 28 million was our targeted. However, our projected reserve at the moment is 26, and we haven't budgeted funding it to the $2 million deficit. So are we using our reserves in 2022 and 2023? And that we've funded with the CARES and other CARISA dollars that came in 21?
Yes, that is not the plan. The 28 million, you actually compare to the 17 million. The 28 million is your proposed, the board's proposed operating reserve. On this slide, the operating reserve is that first line. The other reserves are other money that we have set aside for other things.
Okay. So we have 17 instead of 28?
Yes. Yes. That's where we are. And going back, I think it hasn't even been that amount. You know, we have the ARP remaining, but at this point, we're not trying to budget the ARP to increase reserves. We're keeping the ARP for fiscal year '24.
That's my concern. So basically, we have declining reserves that would ultimately, at some point in time, be reduced to a level that would compromise our ability to provide services in 24, 5, or 6, somewhere in those ranges? 24, 25, 26, possibly?
That is correct, without receiving additional funding or extensively reducing expenses.
If I may, this is a continuation of a long-standing discussion that we as a finance committee and the board members and, Ms. Kemp, every one of us has brought this up. We ended up last year with a $15 million reserve, and that's after receiving $29 million in CARES monies. So you do the math yourself. It tells you the need that we have for additional funding sources, and it emphasizes it. I want to make sure that we're not confusing the $28 million as the policy target with the $17 million that is budgeted for the end of this year, rolling forward to the end of next year. Okay, we budgeted the current year at only 15. We're going to probably end up at about 17. So there was an improvement, and I believe it's primarily based upon and I don't want to get too geeky on this, but we can only budget 95% of the ad valorem tax monies. I was going back and forth trying to find the number, but it represents about $2.9 million that isn't in the budget, but that we have 99% or 98% collection reliability as opposed to the 95 that we budget. So you got another $2.5 million that will theoretically enter into this budget. You can't put it in because you can't budget statutorily. You can't budget that way. But that's another $2 million. So if we're projecting a 17, barring a COVID, barring a huge disaster somewhere, we're looking probably closer to 19.5 or even 20 million reserve at the end of the year. All things being equal and nothing really bad happening. And I challenged the administration last year to make that commitment to putting those excess receipts into reserves. And I think by virtue of the fact that the reserve fund has grown, I think they've lived up to that commitment. And I feel confident that they'll do that going forward into the future, not negating the fact or not minimizing the fact that we still need these alternative revenue sources. They're going to be very, very critical going forward because we are grossly underfunded, and that's everybody sings the same song on this. So I think we need to really push hard for this going forward. And I'll stop there. Anybody else have any other comments? Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, and I think we've talked about this a lot, but in the time that all of us have been on this board, we have been perilously close to the cliff already. I'm talking about just $3 million towards the end of the fiscal year that we had. I have been worried in the past, as I've made a kind of big deal out of, that we wouldn't even be making payroll. We had nothing. So I just, again, we have a gift, as all transit agencies have had across the country with the federal funds. We are now being, this has given us an opportunity to get this kind of budget where we are today. We want to expect it to go on, but that doesn't mean we should just be holding it in reserves, because, if we, it will get eaten up eventually if we just keep doing that anyway. We have even had to make some adjustments and some cuts in our service to make it make sense under our current operating scheme, and I've been here through a few of those. And so I just, again, this is not, this is actually very de minimis compared to any place where we've ever been before. So I just want to be assuring, one, that we're in a really good place, but two, that I think we have, very effectively managed our money as best we could, and I'll say it again, for the most underfunded transit system in the nation, for a metro area this size, not by a little bit, but by huge leaps and bounds, as I understand, equal to Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So with those limitations, we've done very well, and as we're moving forward, we've been in much more, a much scarier place than this, at least for me. I felt that, and our board was here in the past. So this is good news, and we just have to keep watching it and doing what we can moving forward. But I'll also say, this budget makes me very pleased when I know that I see the desperately needed operations and maintenance center moving forward that I know Ms. LeGrand has really championed and put together the $75 million, and I hope we get the last, and the whole bus system, looking at our replacements, looking at our shelters, which have been dismal, our stops, our shelters for so long, and hopefully we will move on all those things, because I think that will make a huge and tremendous difference. So I'm really pleased about this budget going forward, and I hope to see good things in the future for HART.
If I could just clarify one thing, just so it's clear, we don't use ARP or any federal dollars to build our reserves. We use the federal dollars to cover our expenses and any revenue that we have that's remaining from ad valorem or any other source. That's what we build our reserves with.
Point noted. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Do you have anything else on this, or?
That's it.
That's it.
So I'm open for additional questions if you have any.
If I may say just one more comment, I've done budgets for 35 years. This is a tough gig. And there is, you got 7, 8 people up here who can micromanage and pick every little detail. Not that we've done that, we're very constrained, but you guys did a good job. You can be proud of this budget. I think it's going to be very good and very helpful to the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. We try to bring you a budget that you're comfortable approving, and hopefully you do so next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Ms. Kirk. Moving forward, next presentation will be from, to help mess this up, Danielle, from Mr. Stephen Field. Okay, good. Manager of Transit Logistics, who will present the Operations and Maintenance Metrics Report for June and July 2022. Mr. Fields, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair, board members, CEO LeGrand. My name is Stephen Fields. I'll be presenting the Operations Maintenance Monthly Metric Report for June and July. Ridership fall modes that we're showing on the chart here, the last 5 months, for the first 5 months of the fiscal year, we average about 840,000 riderships per month. In the last 5 months, we average about 920,000 per month. March is normally our highest ridership month, with about 955,809 riders, and that's contributed to more spring breakers and people coming down to visit the area. And we should finish the year right at 10 million riders if we average about 920,000 per month for the last 2 months for the fiscal year of 22. On-time performance. On-time performance for the month of June and July was at 79%, which is a slight decrease of 1% over the month of May. Routes 1, 5, 6, 12, 20, and the other routes on there are being analyzed for running time and adjustments in the September markup. We're out monitoring most of the routes to make sure we're making steps to increase the on-time performance. And on this particular chart that you're looking at, Route 33 is a route that is, it took a hit of 3% decrease. It serves the Northdale and the University area and the Hidden River along Fletcher and Del Mavry Boulevard. On that particular route, I have the supervisors out, road supervisors out, checking time points. The controllers, that's dispatchers, or checking our system through Swiftly to make sure that the on-time performance is being met, that the operators are arriving and departing on the time points on time and departed on time at the same time. Route 17, as you see, it increased by 5% from 71% in June to 76% in July. And that's contributed to the supervisors and the controllers out doing what they're supposed to do and our service development department assisting. June and July fixed route missed trips. Monthly total trips, in June we did 44,000 trips with a completion rate of 99.88%. And a lot of times we look at it and say, what is a partial trip? A partial trip is a trip that does not complete all its time points. And a full missed trip is a trip that has missed all its time points. So those are the difference between the two. In July, we did 44,576 trips with a 99.69 completion ratio. June partial trips was 25, July was 38, June was 27 full missed trips, and July was 105 fully missed trips. As you see in our percentage, that we're under 1% as in total missed trips in those 2 months. That is a great thing that we've done to help our maintenance department, safety, and all other departments to make sure that they're out helping to make sure that the buses stay on time and on a route. The next slide, Director Jose will be presenting that particular slide.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Jose Marquez, Director of Safety, Security, and Training. For the month of June, on fixed route, we have 0 fatalities, 1 reportable injury, and 1 NTD reportable event for the month of June. For the month of July, again, 0 fatalities in fixed route, 4 injuries, and 3 NTD reportable events for that month. In the paratransit, the only event that we had was in July, 1 safety event. And on streetcar, 0 fatalities, 0 injuries on June and July. We had 2 reportable events in June, safety events, and 4 during the month of July. If there's any questions?
Commissioner Oberman, you're recognized.
What's the definition of safety event?
According to the Code of Federal Regulations, 49 CFR 673, a safety event is defined as an accident, incident, or occurrence that is reportable to the National Transportation Database.
Okay, right, so it was an accident, but or a crash that did not result in an injury.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to kind of understand that. Because it sounds like we were pretty good at that, with the exception of 1 in July and 1 in June and 1 in, and the 4 in July that actually were in the regular bus ride where there were actual injuries as it related to 3 crashes, 1 crash in June and then 3 crashes in July. Were those injuries and crashes related?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
We could have injuries that meet the threshold that are not related to any kind of collision.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll have Mr. Goldberg, the next slide.
Good morning, Nicholas Goldborn, Manager of Technical Services. I want to allude back to Mr. Stevens' slide where he talked about his missed trips. We had 105 missed trips in July, and one of the things that we're seeing right now is the increased temperature for summer, the seasonal climate. We're seeing an increase in AC complaints. We're also seeing an increase in coolant issues, and especially engines overheating. So that will cause a vehicle to miss its trip. If you look at the data we're showing, we're down roughly 900 miles going back to May and looking at July. And that's mainly a seasonal issue. It is expected, so it's not something we're overly concerned about, but we are looking at taking steps to mitigate those issues going forward. When we look at the major mechanical failures that will render a vehicle out of service, this is where it's particularly clear that there's something going on. And again, that is the season we're in. questions?
Any questions? I did have one. Director Williams, did you have any comments you wanted to make? Since that's your committee part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just going to ask, major mechanical failures, could you expand on what would fall into that category?
Major mechanical failure as defined by the NTD is any mechanical issues that will prevent a bus from finishing the scheduled trip or starting its next scheduled trip. So it could be a flat tire, it could be an engine shut down. There's a broad spectrum. The only thing that it does not include is accident as defined by the NTD and vandalism. So it covers the entire vehicle. Anything that happens that renders that vehicle inoperable.
Okay. And do you by chance happen to know or have idea of what occurred in June and July?
There's a lot, ma'am. We roughly have 169 issues, and the spectrum is very large. AC issues, ADA complaints, engine issues. I can provide you with the details after this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Additional question?
Yeah, I did have one question / comment. I know sometimes you're trying to keep these things together with baling wire and bubble gum and everything else, but are we as administration and a board giving you all the resources that you need to get this done, considering the age of the vehicles? We're changing them as fast as we can, but what else? And I don't expect you to answer this today, but let us know what else we can get for you to keep these buses rolling, because we can't very well expect the citizens to help us if we can't make sure that we're out there with everything that we got, giving them the service that they need.
We're very optimistic about a midlife overhaul. That's something we haven't had in the past, and it's on our current capital budget. So with the approval of that budget, we will be very aggressive in getting its components renewed. Currently, a lot of our buses are past their useful life, or they have engines that have roughly 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles on them.
I know you guys and your staff has done a tremendous job, and it's just we want to make sure that you're getting the resources that you need to make sure it happens. So
You will when you approve the budget.
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to holler.
I was just going to mention, is this a seasonal situation that happens every year around June, July?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then understanding what those trends are around that period of time. Okay, thank you. Once we see the list, then we can be able to support even more. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
Thank you. And I just, again, want to comment to the transparency and clarity of the graphs and the information we're getting with these reports, and make it very clear exactly what the issues are. I mean, we, of course, all love to have 100%. All the time, and we know that that's not possible, but to understand what the issues are, where they are, how they're being dealt with, and to have the reports be so clear. I just say again, it's good news all around, because if you don't have that, you can't understand what you need to do or where your resources are best expended, or where our issues and problems are. So this is all very good. I also, it was good to see the ridership numbers over the years. I think it helps, or over the year. And I think just in terms of just like the repair issues, to see that the coolant in that was an issue and is a rather large issue with the percentage, the smaller percentage of repair issues, but that during the summer months is a stress on the vehicles and system. That's good to understand that as well. So just wanted to thank you for the report and for all the information.
You're welcome.
Very good. Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Ms. LeGrand, of course.
Not to belabor the point, I know time is of the essence in these meetings, but I did want to state a couple of things. One, what you have seen, and thank you for your kind words, is that the team has worked collaboratively on how best to present technical information in a way that everybody, our customers, our board, our citizens can understand the work that we're doing. Sometimes, and staff is smiling at me, I don't know if they were smiling at the times when we talk about it, but, we go through a series of peppering them and asking, what does this mean? Why is this relevant? So that we can start moving in that type of cadence of really speaking to our audience in a way that you understand. And the other thing I wanted to say is, and I thank you, Mr. Goldburn, for mentioning that we'll get our support when the board is approved, when the budget is approved by the board. That's something else that is a little bit different this cycle. We actually had, oh gosh, Ms. Kirk, was it 4 or so series with our entire team? I call them engagement-focused activities where we had boards with all the information, same level of boards that you would send out to a public meeting to meet with our staff, all 4 shifts. We did several rounds, and what happened there was folks actually put their comments on our budget on Post-it notes, like you would do in a public meeting. And we went back and we, as a team, looked at the Post-it notes, looked at what folks were really interested in, and we came back again and went back and explained to them what we understood and where we could find ways to either incorporate their asks in our current year budget or within the 5-year capital plan. So not only are we presenting this information to you today, getting prepared for the actual September meetings where the budget will be approved, I know staff is watching this online or may dial in later on tonight when they get home. This is also a part of the process for them to see that their input is included in what we're presenting to you today. So just wanted to take this quick moment as we're wrapping up this portion of the presentation to thank the entire team, those who are here in the room today, but those who are out driving vehicles, those who are washing our vehicles, those who are making sure that we're making payroll. It's a collective effort to get where we are today.
Very good. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good presentation. Okay, last presentation will be from Mr. Dale Smith, Director of Facilities, who will present the Transit Center Public Restroom Safety and Security Plan. Mr. Smith, you are recognized.
Good morning, Chair, committee members, Mr. Grand. My name is Dale Smith. I'm the Director of Facilities. So today we want to talk about some industry practices. We've contacted some fellow transit agencies to see what they're doing. We want to talk about our HART facilities and then some next steps that we'll be taking in the future. Starting out with MARTA, before the upgrades, they found that they had a lack of the vandal-resistant fixtures in their restrooms. They had surface-mounted fixtures. They had no access control for the doors, and the loitering control system was really just by people on site, by personnel on site. So they were unable to control some of those issues. After the upgrades, MARTA installed a loitering control timed usage system with some smart motion sensors inside the restroom, two-way external communication with video monitoring on the exterior of the restrooms, supervised monitoring access control to a call center, and a two-way emergency audio communication. Inside the restrooms, this is their final product. They were able to install vandal-resistant fixtures throughout the restroom. They put touch-free sensors on the toilets and the soap dispensers and the faucets. And these items were great. It's a great addition. Obviously, we would have to locate funding to implement some of these strategies, as they're pretty expensive to implement. The New Orleans Rapid Transit, they had an issue with a collapse of the Hard Rock in 2019, and they had to set up pretty quickly a temporary transit center. And to handle the public restroom issue at that center, they put in some porta potties as a quick decision, and they found out that kind of had some negative effects. They had loitering, they had drugs, they had people found passed out inside them. There was constant damage to the units themselves, and one was even lit on fire. They had issues with the vendor not wanting to supply the porta potties to them anymore. So they determined that the installation of the porta potties had a negative impact on their patrons, and it was not a safe and sanitary option at all. Now to go to some of our restrooms and our current conditions. The Marion Transit Center is our largest public restroom that we have at our transit center. It has 4 stalls in the ladies' restroom. It has 2 stalls in the men's restrooms with 2 urinals. We have a single door going to a hallway to go to the restrooms. The red door you see would actually be up when the restrooms are open. And then the middle picture shows that's the entrance into the restrooms. It's an open entrance into the restroom. There's no door. It's just a walkway to walk in. So when you go there, you turn to the right to go to the ladies' restroom, and you turn to the left to go to the men's restroom. And it's an open access, so anyone could go in either door. And that's in our opinion pretty unsafe. The next restroom is the University Area Transit Center. It is also a very busy transit center, but we have 2 restrooms there that are unisex restrooms. They are single-use restrooms, but as you can see, the front door was not made out of a steel door. When they designed these restrooms, they designed it with a door similar to a restroom stall. So as a line of protection, someone could, if they wanted, go underneath or over that door. And, in our opinion, it's still not a safe option. Net Park is a pretty busy transit center for us. They have 2 public restrooms. We do have roll-down doors to close them at night. They also have open access going down a hallway, a pretty long hallway, to access the restrooms. The ladies' restroom has 2 stalls. The men's restroom has a stall and a urinal. And again, anyone could walk into any of the 2 restrooms with them being open. We also don't have any cameras pointing towards these openings, so we would have no idea from a camera standpoint and monitoring it if anyone was going in the wrong restroom. Yukon Park and Ride is a fairly new building that we put in there, and it's the same thing. It's 2 single-use restrooms, same type of stall door to go into the restroom system. We do have roll-down doors to protect them at night, but these are single-use restrooms. And it's not a very busy transit center, but it's still somewhat unsafe. It's just a stall door to go in. Someone, again, could go under or over, and there are no cameras at the site. And the Northwest Transit Center is built very similar to Net Park. They were designed in the same fashion. They have 2 single doors. There is no steel door to go in. It's just an opening when the bathrooms are open. The restrooms are the same size, 2 stalls in the ladies' restroom, 1 stall in the men's restroom with a urinal. So some of our challenges that we've been facing, graffiti, biohazards, vandalism, and loitering, those have caused a lot of issues. We do not have access control to go into the restrooms. We could use, it's just an ease of an entrance to the restroom while they're open. Anyone could go in and out of the restrooms. And currently we have an hourly cleaning schedule for the restrooms. So once an hour we go in there, we close them down, and we clean the restrooms, go through and see what's going on. If there's a problem, we would report it to security. We want to make sure that the public restroom is an amenity that we provide to our patrons, but it has to be safe. And it has to be clean. We want it to be a positive experience as they use our restrooms. So some of the opportunities that we are considering is a camera at each entrance to watch people going in and out. And as you can see in the top right-hand corner, we've already moved a couple of cameras at Marion Transit Center and University Transit Center to get that camera shot. So we've relocated those cameras already. And I just showed you a nice picture there. We are going to upgrade the signage at each location to show everybody what our new policies are. And if we can identify some funding, we're also looking at a restroom attendant or a porter that could sit out front and allow access in, and then go in with a more frequent cleaning schedule to go in and out and report things to security if there was any type of issue inside the restroom. The timeline. I know it's very important to get these restrooms open as soon as possible, but we want them to be safe. We want them to be a positive experience for everyone. So we're looking to open them with a phased approach. We're looking to start with the two busiest transit centers, which is Marion Transit Center and the University Area Transit Center. The other transit centers have a little more construction involved in getting doors installed and getting everything done. So they'll come online as we can get them online. But these are the two that we feel we can get done the quickest. They are the busiest, and we think it would make the most impact. But we will open the restrooms once our policies and procedures are in place. We're currently working with vendors. Some of the work has already been done. Once we get the vendors in place, we'll continue to finish the work and get the restrooms open. And then finally, we'll continue to address the remaining transit centers. Do you have any questions?
Director Knight.
Yeah, good. And again, thanks for the presentation. To make sure, so as of today, they still not open, none of them?
That's correct. They were closed July 15th.
Okay. Few things, like the doors that's off, I even went to about 3 of those locations, including the Marion, University, Hillsborough, 56. And from my understanding, those doors that was at those bathrooms was taken off by HART employees, and it was I guess a decision made to take them off because they felt it was better to have them off, people going in there locking them or whatever like that. And I just feel, because I get hit all the time, and I'm sure other directors as well, that those bathrooms, pretty much from what I've seen and hearing you, that they are operable, and some things that need to be, like changing the camera or whatever it takes, seem like for the people that patronize HART and support us should have ways, because I've witnessed, like I said in another meeting, people getting off those buses that need to go use it, either coming from the doctor in wheelchairs, crutches, or whatever like that, walking around trying to, and the solution to send them to either Burger King or Walmart or whatever like that, that just don't get it. And I feel that even on funding or whatever it takes, I have the confidence in our CEO and HART and our co-directors that some good can come out of this and that we can make this go away. So that's my feeling on it.
Any other? Thank you, Director. Any other questions? I do have some. Okay, 5 locations, right?
Yes,
Okay, they're all still closed right now.
Yes.
When do we anticipate the first 2 opening?
Well, those are our priorities, UATC and MTC. We're hoping to have them open sometime in the fall. We're working with vendors, we're working with timeline situations, getting steel doors installed, getting construction. We've got to go through the procurement process. So while we'd like to open them as soon as possible, and that is our goal, it's very difficult to give you a specific timeline right now. We just kind of wanted to give you an overview today, but we'll update you with our timeline as often as we can, and when we get news as to when we would be able to install these steel doors.
Well, what's the anticipated cost of some of these repairs for do we have a budget? Do we have a plan? We need to replace three commodes, 4 doors, 6 wall units. Do we have what's our target? What are we trying to get to?
So we're trying to harden the restrooms. We're trying to put steel door access into interim, a badge access control, so that they can actually be monitored and controlled as to who goes in and out of the restrooms, to put up signage, and even have a campaign to teach them how we want our system to be used. That these are the additions we made for your safety, and the potential of hiring a day porter or patron to sit at the front to allow the access and to go in often, a lot more often, and make sure that the restrooms are clean, sanitary, and safe. That's our goal. So working with these vendors, I've seen the installation of these doors is probably going to run somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000 per set of doors. So we're going to have to identify funding to get that done at all the centers. The cameras, we've already done that work. The badge access system, we're expecting a quote in the next week or two. So we'll identify the funding as we know what our funding requirements are. We just don't have those answers yet.
When are we going to have those?
We're hoping very soon. We've put feelers out to all the vendors.
Okay. Mr. Grange?
Yes, if I may. So, and I know we talked about this last meeting. We are having issues with the supply chain. It's not just HART, it's the global issue. So steel is a hard commodity to come across, so we are working. We're fortunate that Dale has worked with these vendors for a while, so he's putting some calls in to see if we can expedite our needs. But we do have to also go through the procurement process because we don't have a vendor who is providing us with those types of doors right now. But we're expediting that, working with our procurement team. The objective is, and Dale, tell me if this is being too aggressive, but as he said, we'll be able to give you an update on the timeline as soon as we get information. Even outside of the meetings, we'll make sure that information is updated on the website because we know the community is also interested in when we're going to have everything online. But we don't want to throw out a date that we have to come back and say it's not going to happen because we've gotten these calls. So we expect some callbacks this week, and we should have a little more understanding of how dire the situation is. But the good news is, since we are trying to be aggressive with our approach to resolving this issue, as Director Knight said, making this go away, we did work with our internal team. We found some opportunities where we could remove cameras from locations. So be clear, it's not like we have, a cabinet full of cameras. What we've done is gone throughout the system and identified cameras and utilize insight from safety and Jose's team to say which cameras can we actually move from one location and use them for the restrooms. So we still are going to have to back place the cameras that we've moved, but we're using this approach so that cameras aren't going to hold us back. And we're doing that with several of the components that are needed. We focused on the exterior, but interior, as Dale had on the slide, challenges with the vandalism. If you saw the types of sinks and commodes that we have in our restroom compared to some of the examples that are more vandalism, resistant, we have to also try to source some of those types of, I don't know what you call them, sinks, vanities, and commodes. I don't know the technical, industrial name for that, fixtures. And even though we didn't show images on the slide, there's situations where the fixtures have been removed. So when we say vandalism, that also consists of people knocking the fixtures off of the wall. So then when you come back in after your hour of rotation of cleaning, you notice that the sinks are all on the floor and they're not on the wall any longer, or the commodes are not fixed to the floor any longer. So, we don't want to present this as a situation where everything is terrible, because it's not. But what we want to do is, one, reduce the cost associated to HART for continually to come back and reapply fixtures that we know will be knocked down or can be knocked down. So that's part of what we're looking for quotes on, and then also understanding how quickly we can get those here so our team can install it. And lastly, I'll say, as much of the work that we can do ourselves, HART is committed to doing ourselves. So I don't want you to think we're waiting on vendors to come and actually install. We're just looking for the raw material, and then our team, in most cases, can come out and install it ourselves.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Mayor Castor, your hand's raised.
Thank you, Chair Shusha. I think that what I was going to say that I've been answered for the most part. One was what the total cost was, and just to also, as Ms. LeGrand said, they didn't show photos of some of the property that had been destroyed. And I fully understand the need to get these bathrooms back up and running for our customers, but we have to provide a safe environment. And it is unfortunate that you have a few individuals that are bent on destruction. We've even experienced this, which I'm sure Chair Overman and the other county commissioners can also testify to, that we've experienced a lot of this in our parks and recreation, where you think people would be very happy to have those facilities in good working order. Thank you for your efforts in this area, much appreciated, and I'm sure you'll be able to get them back up for the customers as quickly as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, thank you. And I'll just say, when I first heard of the issue, I was a little taken aback and didn't quite understand, what the urgency and what was happening exactly. But as has been pointed out in this, it is truly not just limited to our system, but it's all over the country that these issues are happening, and that transit agencies are trying to do, as well as transit agencies, as well as other public entities, as Mayor said, parks, but also libraries and other places with access are having this problem. So I do appreciate, too, the fact that you're looking at measures like moving the cameras that you already had, that you could put there, and demonstrating exactly what was needed and how it was needed, and what we could do. And also, I actually expected a larger price tag. It makes sense that the supply chain is the issue now. And I assume that will be updated as we find out that, we can do something here, because, we definitely need to get back to what we could. But we're one of public agencies across the nation that are experiencing these kinds of issues, and we just have to take these measures and move on with having the access that people are used to and deserve, but we can't do that with this pause.
Thank you, Ms. Kemp. Commissioner Overman?
Thank you. And, obviously, all of us are very concerned about the fact that we have some bus riders that are on the bus routes for an hour, transfer to another bus that takes another hour. These folks are out in our system oftentimes for long periods of time. And these facilities are very important to our riders to be able to utilize. And they've been closed now for a month, and we don't have a target date. So I am too concerned. I now have a better understanding of why we're here, and it's largely due to the fact that we've had individuals that have destroyed HART property, and it's not uncommon to see government property destroyed by individuals. But how many arrests have we made for the consequence of this vandalism, and have we investigated it in order to see if there's a way to stop it?
So I will respond to that. HART is not in the process, or are we authorized to arrest anyone, so we haven't made any arrests. However, in most cases, we do not see the vandalism occurring. We are there after it happens and realize that we have to address what's going on, right? So that goes back to having a full-time attendant. We don't have someone whose full-time job it is to watch what's going on in the restroom. So if there is someone who vandalizes it, we don't find out about it until after it's happened. As we mentioned with the cameras, not having the cameras there in the past, it's not like a situation where you can then go to security and Jose's team and ask them to pull up the camera and see who did that. So part of what we're doing, that's an excellent question, because we would hope in the future we will be able to say, well, this is the person that we saw go in at this time. It corresponds to when we got the notification that this happened, and we've sent this information to law enforcement, and they're going to pursue this individual. But we don't have the ability today to do that. So from a law enforcement side, that's when our vulnerabilities. From a patronage side, if something, unfortunately, God forbid, nefarious were to occur, again, we would not be able to provide that level of information to say, this is what we saw, this is, helping that person find the assailant. So, our point is to do it right. I think someone mentioned at the last meeting that this has been a risk for a long time and it hadn't been addressed. We cannot move forward knowing that something is a risk and not addressing it and leaving it as status quo. Because if something does happen, and this is guidance from legal counsel, we will definitely be liable because we knew it was a risk, and we actually said it on camera that we've known it's been a risk for several years, and we haven't fixed the problem. So the unfortunate thing here, I think if we didn't have the supply chain issues, this would be pretty much a done deal now. We're just waiting on some of these raw materials, and then we'll be able to provide you with another update. And, we're also not only stopping there, we're also looking to see if there are any surplus materials. Someone's doing an upgrade and they have a door frame that matches ours, so Dale and his team, they're going through the process to find not only new materials, but surplus materials that we may possibly be able to use.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Director Williams, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think for me, when I first heard the issue, I was very surprised that it had taken place. And then when I learned more about what happened, I think the extreme discretion that's been utilized, I know we talked about graffiti, the fixtures being removed and so forth. There were some things that were much more severe and that we've not spoken to for the good of everybody understanding and the privacy and so forth. So for me, I think the other part was the communication that's taken place, and we could probably ramp the communication on that type of nature, the situation at hand, and making sure that we're all on the same page and the public as well. And then as we ramp the ideas that we have that are forthcoming, state-of-the-art type security and safety, just when we start to open, I think it's a good idea for us to show the public the actions we've taken, the fixtures we've included, and then making sure that everyone gets an opportunity to see that this is for the safety of the community and making sure that we're doing things that are for our HART patrons. And so I think that as we continue to open other locations, they'll be able to see that, we've taken steps and this is all for the safety. And, as quickly as possible, I'd like to echo those comments as well. I know you guys are taking those steps, but as quickly as possible, we can get at least one of them open so they are able to see that there are actions that are being taken as a result of Mr. Edwards' feedback and the community with the restrooms and the lack of use of restrooms at this point. But thank you. I think I've learned a lot more than what I initially heard, and that communication aspect is got to be ramped up significantly as a result of that. But thank you for the work that's being done, and it comes with a cost. We understand that, but safety is it's warranted when you think about it all. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you very much, everybody. Good presentation. No further questions. We'll move forward to our committee action items. Next on the agenda are committee action items for review by the Joint Committee and recommendation for approval by the full Board of Directors. Item 5A is for the committee to form a recommendation to the HART Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to award a contract to Mid-Florida Armored and ATM Services Inc. for cash processing, ticket vending machine, TVM, cash and change machine services in a not-to-exceed amount of $1,236,248. In your packet, you have a write-up of the attachments proposed resolution in support of this item. Do any committee members have any questions or comments for staff?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Danielle, would you take a vote on the issue?
Committee Member Castor.
Approved, and just for information, I have to leave the meeting now, so this will be my last one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee Member Kemp.
Yes.
Committee Member Knight.
Yes.
Committee Member Overman.
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler.
Yes.
Committee Member Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Next action item 5B in your packets is a write-up proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the HART Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to award a contract to Bridgestone America's Tires Operation LLC for tire leasing for an amount not to exceed $3,096,355. Do we have any questions, comments, or
Move
a motion?
approval.
Second.
Yes, Director Knight.
On the tire leasing, can you just explain a little bit on the tire leasing part of it?
Sure. Mr. Dranville or Mr. Loeffler, if you want to come up and talk about our existing contract with Bridgestone Americas.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, Scott Dranville, Chief of Transportation Maintenance. So we don't purchase our tires and revenue service, we lease them because they're paid by the mile. So as we use the vehicle, that's how we pay. We don't pay, we don't make one outright purchase. If the bus, as many miles as the bus uses, specific rates for a specific size tire. So that's why we lease. It's most advantageous to HART to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we had I thought I heard a motion. Did we have a second?
I made a motion.
I did.
Motion and a second. Okay, Danielle?
Committee Member Kemp?
Yes.
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, next action item 5C. In your packets, there's a write-up, proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the HART Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to award a contract to Gas South LLC for natural gas for a not-to-exceed amount of $5,664,065. Do committee members have any comments, questions, or a motion?
Move approval?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Danielle?
Committee Member Kemp?
Yes.
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to action item 5D. In your packet, there's a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the HART Board of Directors to authorize staff to proceed with a solicitation for employer-paid group term life and group long-term disability insurance benefit programs. Do committee members have any comments, questions for staff, or a motion to proceed?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other, no further comments? Danielle, would you take a vote, please?
Committee Member Kemp?
Yes.
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. In your packets, next item is 5E. In your packets, you'll find a write-up and a proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the HART Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to execute a modification to the existing contract with Automatic Data Processing LLC, ADP, to extend the contract through September 30th, 2025 for a 3-year total not to exceed amount of $1,066,140 and increase VC, I assume that's a contract, -000679 to a not to exceed amount of $3,138,800. Do committee members have any comments, questions for staff, or a related motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. The VC, that is an overall contract?
That is the overall contract limit, yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Danielle?
Committee Member Kemp?
Yes.
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. The only related comment I would make is in the capital plan, there's that $3 million expenditure in like 3 or 4 years. This is all related to that, I assume, Ms. Kirk?
That is correct.
That is okay.
So that is showing this motion that just passed here is for us to modify the existing contract with ADP through September of 2025. And then you are absolutely
Right.
correct. In our capital plan, we have funding because we'll have to re-procure this same contract
Right.
at that time, and that's the funding to
Okay,
move
because I
it
think
forward.
that comment came up during the capital plan review. I just want to make sure that blend leads into that. Okay, cool.
That's why I
Right, okay, so next on the agenda is moving to committee action item 5F. In your package, you will find a write-up on a proposed resolution to form a recommendation of the HART Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to extend the Innovations in Transportation, Inc., INIT contract VC-000-542 through September 30th, 2023, and to provide system operation and managed services for the Flamingo Fairs program for a total not to exceed amount of $1,245,063 and increase contract VC-000-542 to a total not to exceed amount of $13,635,572. Do committee members have any comments, questions for staff, or a related motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second it here. I guess I would just like, on this one, probably, to hear maybe a little
Something,
update or
yeah.
more information, because in the past I've had questions about it. It seems like it's moving along more smoothly now, and I have more confidence in what I've seen or heard, but I'd certainly appreciate, maybe we could move it for now, but at the meeting, the monthly meeting, have just more information about that would be helpful for me, because I just like to know about exactly how it's working.
Yeah, I would agree with that prior to the vote. We can talk about it here, but I think the whole board's going to need to hear a little bit more. Just, it's been going on forever and ever, and and we just want to make sure that we do have
I've
some.
had my critiques.
Exactly.
And we've heard some additional changes that were asked, and that makes sense that there would be an increase, but I do agree that the board needs to
Sure,
hear the progress
sure.
on this report.
Director Knight, you had your hand?
All right. Can you make a motion to until we get more additional information, to set it aside, not even take it to the board? Have more discussion, then we bring it back up.
Well, hold on, we have a motion on the floor right now. Now, the motion on the floor right now is to move it to the board. Are you saying you would like to withhold, keep it in the committee until we have more information, or to have more information presented for the board?
Can I?
Is that a substitute motion? Is that what you're wanting to do?
I have some, I'll second it, and I have some.
Go ahead, yeah, please, you're the floor.
Here, so I'm just wondering, is there any, and I think that could be an approach as well, maybe a wiser one, but is there any time pressure in terms of this, to move this at this time? That's what I'd like to understand.
So I'm going to call on Mr. Kafus if you can provide us with a response. Is this time sensitive?
Good morning, Kathy Zigafus, Director of Procurement. Yes, it is time sensitive in that this service will expire the end of September. So this is just for the managed services moving forward for fiscal '23.
Would we have paid this amount anyway, or?
No, this is just approving the continuation of managed services for fiscal '23.
Well, what happens if we don't approve it?
Well, I mean, we could delay it a month and let them know that it's going to go to the October board then.
We have a board meeting in September. September 26th is.
Yeah, I didn't know what was on the floor, if it's to not present at the October board.
So is the request to wait until October to present it to the full board?
No,
Or could we present it in September?
We're not meeting till later in September, correct?
Yeah, September 26th.
We have an opportunity to come back to this committee to give a presentation on it prior to that?
That would work.
Okay, so we'll have another Finance and Audit Committee meeting in September.
No, so we're not going to have another committee meeting in September. We'll have a board meeting in September. Because our meetings in September are a little different because we have to have two public hearings for the budget. So the first one is just a public hearing, and then the second one is a board meeting and a public hearing, so.
Okay, then we can't accommodate the motion, so without.
Ms. Kirk has something that she'd like to share.
To the board and Mr. Grant, if it expires at the end of September and we do have the concern, we could do one or two things. We can certainly send you information to satisfy you and, diminish those concerns. But we do meet 2 days in September. If we had to have a meeting on September 12th, and if it's the board's desire, maybe we schedule something that day. This board is together twice in September. Right now, the board meeting is scheduled for September 26th. Right. But there is a public hearing on the 12th, and this board will be together on the 12th.
Would you need to advertise it as a committee meeting, Julie?
Yes, we'd have to advertise.
As a committee meeting?
Yeah, okay.
If that's what you were going to hold it as? So,
Can we have the public hearing and then have the committee meeting meet directly after that?
I mean, there's nothing that keeps you from doing that so long as it's properly advertised.
Right, that's what I'm saying, we can do
As a
that.
committee, that's totally authorized for you to do it that way. You just need to make sure it's clear in the record that it's a separate committee.
Yeah, I mean, every one of us here has a concern with it, and that's the purpose of our meeting, is to flush these issues out. Yeah, Commissioner Merberman.
Okay, so my question is this just a continuation to make sure that the Flamingo service works and is operable and is managing? This isn't additional services, additional design, this is just basically to keep the lights on when it comes to their fare program, is that correct?
That's correct.
So should we choose not to renew it, or not recommend to the board to renew what is on today's agenda, and we wait until 3 days before it expires, or 4 days, 5 days before it expires, what would happen should it not get reviewed at that point when it comes to the utilization of Flamingo fares?
Okay, because, let me just say this is like any other technology where you have maintenance on the technology and you decide to let it expire, then you just use the technology until it breaks and you don't get the support. This is the same type of situation. One of the things that, for this one, it makes it look so odd is because we're saying it's not to exceed $13 million, but that also included the basic infrastructure and purchase of the Flamingo Fare system. And we just keep compounding and adding to that amount to just make it look like we spent so much and paid so much for the system itself. But the system is operable. So now every year we come to you for a maintenance agreement. And for whatever reason, we just continue to add to that basic amount and make it look like it's this huge system.
May I?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, so one was a capital investment of the system, and one is an ongoing operating cost. And what we're looking at is the maintenance of the ongoing operating cost.
That's correct.
So to help the board, we're not looking at a capital investment of $13 million and change.
Good point.
We're looking at an improvement of maintaining a system we've invested $13 million in. So I'm hesitant to suggest that we would put that at risk by not approving it today. So
And I would tend to agree with that. Director Nutt, are you comfortable with them bringing it up in a future discussion? Okay, because we're going to start losing quorum here very shortly. I'm going to keep this moving as quickly as we can. We need to approve something here. So what is the final? What's the existing motion? Pardon me?
I'd like to scrap that motion.
Okay, so we go back to our original motion. So we have a motion to approve and move it forward to the board meeting on the 26th. So Danielle?
Can I just ask here?
Yes.
In terms of continuing to the 26th, but just, I see no reason we can approve for more explanation on the 12th and do another committee meeting just on this and just continue it to that time. That would solve both the questions.
Good point. We just make sure we notice it properly.
So I could maybe make a new motion, a substitute motion, I guess, at this point, since that motion's been done, to have notice and do a short committee meeting on the 12th where we have more information and explanation of this so that then we could move forward to the September meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, so make sure that's properly noticed. And Danielle, if you want to call roll on that, please.
Committee Member Kemp?
Yes.
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams? Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 5G. In your package, you'll find a write-up and proposed resolution to form a recommendation to the HART Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to exercise option year in the contract for Cummins, Inc. for remanufactured Cummins engines to extend the contract through November 3rd, 2023 for a 1 year not to exceed of $435,665.63 and increase VC 0000861 to a not to exceed amount of $1,663,438.34. Do committee members have any comments, questions for staff, or a corresponding motion?
Move approval?
Do you have a second? I'm sorry, do we have a second?
I'll second
Okay, I'm
it.
sorry. Danielle, please.
Committee Member Kemp?
Yes?
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the last action item is item 5H. In your package, you'll find a write-up proposed resolution to form recommendation of the HART Board of Directors, authorize the CEO to execute a modification to existing contract for the HART Network Evaluation and Comprehensive Operational Analysis, COA, with Kinetics Transportation Group to extend the contract for up to 12 months through September 30th, 2023, with no increase in the contract value. Do committee members have any comments, questions for staff, or a corresponding resolution?
Second?
I mean, you should.
I'm half deaf, so we got to talk a little.
I move the approval, she seconded,
Okay,
and I have
good,
a
okay.
question after it passes.
Committee Member
Okay,
Kemp?
Yes?
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Quick question, or can we do
Go
ayes?
ahead and take the next item, and then
Oh,
I'll
come
bring it
back,
up
okay,
under.
because we're
old
going to lose our
business.
quorum here. Last action item is 5I. In your package, you can find a write-up proposed resolution to form a recommendation for the HART Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to modify the existing contract for third-party administrator, TPA, general liability claims with John's Eastern Corp. Company, Inc., to extend the contract for a 5-month period through February 10, 2023, and increase the not-to-exceed amount for $940,955 to $1,021,121.65. Do committee members have any comments, questions for staff?
Move approval.
Or a related motion?
Second?
Okay, we have Danielle.
Committee Member Kemp?
Yes?
Committee Member Knight?
Yes.
Committee Member Overman?
Yes.
Committee Chair Schisler?
Yes.
Committee Member Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you for your votes. Okay, you had a question, Mr.
I do. We have this contract with Kinetics Transfer to really look at our entire network, and I got a question over the weekend that I found rather fascinating, and I did not know the answer to the question. Because I'm very hypersensitive to changes in our routes, we're modifying the route in order to improve the on time and to address some congestion issues frequently. Sometimes we make changes to a route that impact disadvantaged communities. Two of them that I have great concern about is on MLK for the stop that crosses Williams Road. Since we eliminated the Williams Road stop, there was still a stop on MLK. So I want to assure that that stop is still there because that serves a very large affordable housing community. And then secondarily, someone approached me over the weekend regarding the lack of the stop that is in front of Orient Road, that is in front of our jail at that place, at that location. That there's no longer a stop there, and that the sheriff's office is no longer distributing bus passes because there's no stop there. Frequently, when people unfortunately are incarcerated, the only way they can get to where they need to go after they're released is by bus, unless they have somehow enough cash on them or someone picks them up. So I was curious if you could basically come back and help me understand what our process is when we make changes to make sure we're not making changes that directly impact very vulnerable communities. In the case of affordable housing, but also in this case, that stop that was right out in front of Orient Road was a very, I would assume, unfortunately, well-run, well-utilized stop, and I don't know if that in fact has been, that stop has actually been canceled, and whether or not there's an assumption that they could go to MLK and how that was communicated to the jail. So I'm not sure what our process looks like when we make those changes, because it seems as though most of our changes have to do with on-time and ridership as a total, but having an eye on those vulnerable communities needs to be part of that process. So I don't know who could help with that, but you can bring it back at a later date if that would be best. But I did get the question.
Okay, good. Cool. Okay, thank you, everyone. Mr. Grant, next, Mr. Grant will report on the sole source awards and deviations from the requirements of the procurement manual of July 22.
Yes, and we had no sole source awards in the month of July. However, at our last board meeting, there was a request to take this off of the board agenda and to put it on the committee agenda. So this is the first time you're seeing it here on the committee agenda.
Very good. Okay, cool. Any questions from Mr. Grand on that? Thank you very much. Old business, nobody has old business. I have two, I think, or at least one. Ms. Kirk, the committee, the negotiations with the audit firm?
Yeah, I'll let the Director of Procurement address that. She was in charge of the negotiations.
Very good. Thank you.
Kathy Zickafus, we did begin discussion Friday, and we'll be continuing them this week.
You don't anticipate any issues?
I don't anticipate any issues. I do know that there was no technical concern on their proposal, so we're trying to get the price down, and we've completed the analysis, but I think that's going to be a difficult challenge to get them to come down on their price at all.
Okay. You'll let us know how this progresses.
We will.
Very good.
Definitely will.
Thank you. And then finally, Ms. Kirk, I'm sorry, how are we with our staffing and our finance department as it relates to the finding at the last annual report, or the auditor report?
Okay. To Mr. Sisler and the board, good question. Certainly, we're always challenged to fill positions. Most of the positions have been filled. The one now that is problematic is the Director of Budget and Grants. That's why you see me presenting the budget. We have made 2 offers. So we have recruited, offered, and then in both cases, the offer was rejected. So that is the only position right now that we have to recruit for, and the supervisor of financial operations, she has been promoted. She's in the process of being promoted to the director of financial operations, so we'll have to backfill. But in terms of the accounting positions, the executive assistant, matter of fact, starts today. I should meet with her about 12:30. So we have been actively trying to fill those positions, but we do have those 2 positions that are still vacant.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other old business? Any new business? Hearing, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Sorry it took so long today.